Yo, I'm Noah Boelter, running back for the Seattle Seahawks.
Tyler Lockett from the Seattle Seahawks.
DK Metcalf.
KJ Wright.
Hey, Burleson. You're watching NordCam.
You're watching NordCam.
What's going on, everybody? This is NordCam coming at you with another stream talking about, well, what else is there to talk about this week? It is draft week. The draft is officially 1 day away. Tomorrow night, we find out what the Seahawks are going to do at pick number 18. Lots of speculation, a lot of talk about the obvious. Offensive line seems to be on the tips of the tongue of everybody out there who are Seahawks fans. But is that what the Seahawks are actually going to do? We're going to discuss this with a good friend of mine and also a member of the media over on the eastern side of the state. Always happy to have him on board, the one and only Noah Boelter. Noah, what's going on, brother? It's good to see you.
Man, the weather's getting warm. I'm feeling good, brother. Let me tell you something.
You know, for the event as the draft is, which is no action, just a bunch of guys sitting around waiting for their name to be called, it is one of the most exciting times of the NFL season. How are you feeling about it? Where are you going to be watching the draft from when it kicks off tomorrow?
Man, hopefully from home. It's a busy time, man. It's a busy time. I'll tell you that. I feel so overwhelmed at times with responsibilities that I definitely enjoy a basketball game, a football game, a baseball game from the comfort of my own home. And the draft, you mentioned it. The theatrics, right? Like, they do this thing up on all the different networks. They do the live streams, the live coverage, and the way that they keep content fresh between every single pick. There is so much to be excited about. There's so much to learn. There's so much to gain. We're still learning about the players as they're being drafted. Oftentimes you have fans, you don't even know how to react because you start to get to day 2, day 3, you don't know who these guys are. And so you got to eat that stuff up, man. You can't get it later the same way you can get it live. Yeah, for sure. And, it's... I'm excited because I was fortunate to be given the opportunity to attend the Seahawks official draft party, VIP style. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to be out there with some of the lucky members of the 12s out there at the base of the Space Needle, enjoying the festivities, having a drink and a snack here and there as we wait for this exciting moment. I think I say this every year, that this is the most important draft the Seahawks have. I think I've said that every single year for like the past 10 years. But I do feel like this is a pretty important one, really, with everything that's at stake now with Mike Macdonald's first official full year with the team, with John Schneider. Kind of a lot of people starting to wonder, is John Schneider at the end of his leash here if he doesn't make good with fixing the problems that we have? We're going to get into all that stuff for sure. But before we do, I just want to give you a chance to for the people who don't know you out there, what do you do? And tell them a little bit about your channel and your social networks out there. Well, no, every single day I'm privileged throughout the week to be a morning reporter here for KHQ in Spokane. We get to serve the community every single day, multiple stories a day. It's a huge privilege, and I'm very thankful to do it. In my free time, I like to lift weights. I like to hang out with friends, watch sports, play sports. I play basketball a lot of my free time. And then in terms of content, Seahawks content, NBA, I'm a big NBA guy. I've been watching the playoffs a lot. I got a couple picks who I really want to see the Lakers come back against Minnesota. Okay, the way that they performed in game 1 was disrespectful. Game 2, we saw them show up again, but now they got to go win a game on the road because they blew home court advantage. Okay, so I'm invested in the NBA right now because I got teams, even though Seattle doesn't have a team yet, which they will soon. I am still invested in the NBA, and so that's what I've been up to.
Well, for a guy who's in the media, you kind of have to be. And you had a chance, you were involved pretty heavily in March Madness, right? Saw some of your posts of you doing some coverage there. What was that all about?
Oh, that was a privilege, man. I was sent to Wichita with Gonzaga men's basketball to cover the news side of the team heading out there for their first 2 rounds of the tournament. Got to watch courtside as they beat Georgia pretty handily right away. In the first 3 minutes, that game was over. And then I got to watch a nail biter against Houston, a game where Gonzaga trailed the vast majority of the game. but found a way back in the very end. Put up a great fight, unable to get it done, but they lost to a team that made it to the national championship game. And more importantly, just the experience was incredible. The people of Wichita are awesome. They have a combination of Southern and Midwest hospitality. You start to learn the ways of the people out there. Have you ever been to Kansas?
I have been to, not Wichita, but I have been to Kansas, mostly for my girls' volleyball tournaments because they often have the Triple Crown out there, or triple crown for club volleyball over in Kansas. I've been out to Kansas City a number of times. Enjoyed the barbecue. Outside of volleyball, that might have been my favorite part, was enjoying that delicious second to none barbecue out there. But yeah, the people I met, even though I was cooped up in a gym most of the time, from the people I did meet, very warm and friendly. And I guess you can kind of be warm and friendly when you're on the heels of a Super Bowl win or two. So that always brings a smile to people's faces.
Kansas City, different, right? We have to establish.
Yes, that's true.
Okay.
I know. It's right on the edge there, right? So it is kind of like between the border. I still don't really know how to differentiate the two. I didn't even realize how much that is right on the edge. You have to kind of decide, are you on which side or the other? But
well, and here's the thing. Here's what I meant by they take it so personal, and I admire this about these people because I'm the same way with my stuff. You heard about the river in the middle of Kansas, right?
Yeah.
What do you know the name of the river?
Remind me, enlighten me and the audience.
They call it the Arkansas River, versus the people across the border call it the Arkansas River. And if you call it the Arkansas River to the people in Kansas, you will be kicked out, voted off the tribe, everything and a half. They're they care a lot about that. So it's spelled the same way. It's technically the same river, but on one side of the border, it's Arkansas. The other side, it's Arkansas. If nothing else, I learned that.
Wow, I've never actually said Arkansas before. I would have thought I'd be slapped silly if I came out saying Arkansas. But tomato, potato, Arkansas. Well, what an awesome experience. You had so many cool things that you've gotten to do with your job and stuff. And you still make time to come in the middle of a busy week to join my show to talk a little bit of Seahawks and NFL draft. How lucky am I?
Nord, I'm the lucky one, man. This is a privilege. And let's not forget, for the people at home, I remember growing up watching this guy who I'm across from right now. He's wondering how he's getting invited to the VIP party to watch the Seahawks draft. What do you mean? You're so humble, Norb. You're the Seahawks fan of the year. Can we just establish who I'm the lucky one here to be in your presence? So thank you again for continuing to invite me, even a state apart.
Well, no matter what you say, I'm feeling very fortunate that you're taking the time to do this and taking the time to share your thoughts with our audience out there. Because I know right now everybody's just clamoring to get an idea of what might be happening come tomorrow, and pretty soon the tension will all be over, and we'll be cheering, shaking our heads, screaming for joy, screaming in anger. It's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out, because it's a weird draft, man. It's not like one of these drafts in the past where you kind of knew we must get this one guy or this, it's kind of like you have a lot of different options and you can really hit a home run in multiple places. So, and with so many picks early, John Schneider's kind of got a buffet of options to a point where it's like, you almost have to try to screw this one up. But I know, believe me, I can't put my foot in my mouth. But after what happened last year with the draft, everyone's draft board can get completely screwed after like 3 or 4 picks in. So it's going to be interesting to see what you got coming in here. I want to shout out the people watching out there, like Dogzilla Monster, Go Hawks, Eric Alstad, Devo, Marcel, Modify was in here earlier when watching the stream I had with Rudy. Out the Park Sports, he wants to know who are we going to draft at 18. Colin Clark. Put your thoughts out there and any questions you might have. Kick up too. Thanks for joining the stream earlier. What's up? He says to me and Noah. So thank you guys for chiming in. Put your questions. I'll try to get to them if I can. But let's cut to the chase here, man. How do we begin this? I don't know where you want to start. I want to jump right into what the Seahawks do. But I'm going to toss this to you, being the seasoned professional that you are. Let's talk about the 2025 draft as a whole. Noah, your thoughts on what we should expect going into this day tomorrow?
Norb, let's set the stage here, right? Because this is a very important draft for a lot of people, not just for Seahawks fans, but people within the organization. Okay, we remember it was Paul Allen who was guiding the ship, who was leading the ship, the late Paul Allen. He passed away several years ago, and since then it's been Jody Allen who is the helm of the ship. But what happened when Paul Allen passed is that the shift of power truly did pass onto the people who are being paid to run the organization, not the people who own the organization. Okay, so John Schneider, Pete Carroll, they got all the power, right? So things started to go wrong. The Seahawks never looked like they did when they made it to the Super Bowl back-to-back years. Year after year after year, playoff loss after playoff loss. Eventually, they stopped making the playoffs, and then they trade Russell Wilson. And then, like, okay, maybe Pete Carroll's the problem. And then things keep going wrong. They bring in Mike Macdonald. And last year, it was the first year with Mike Macdonald, so John Schneider had that to lean back on, along with the fantastic 2022 draft and some of the other good draft picks that he has had throughout his tenure. But now we're getting to the end of the leash. As you mentioned, Norb, Seahawks fans are getting frustrated. It's a results-oriented business. John Schneider with 10 draft picks heading into this year, in a year where we've not been very active in free agency. We have not gone and brought in some of the key pieces that were our biggest needs, I should say, because we did go get a DeMarcus Lawrence. We did go get a Sam Darnold, but what we didn't do was address our biggest need, which is interior offensive line. What we didn't do was address a nose tackle who is going to allow our first round pick last year to play 3-tech and to dominate the way that he does best. So this is a draft where you cannot screw up these picks. Whatever order you want to get your D-line, O-line, developmental quarterback, we can go down the list of all the different needs, a tight end who can also play fullback for this Clint Kubiak system. Well, whatever order you get them, you cannot miss on these draft picks, because if this draft goes to crap, John Schneider's going to pay. I have a strong feeling about that just as a Seahawks fan.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was saying, right? I mean, it's like you really can't screw it up entirely, because even if you miss in one spot, there should be someone else you can pick up in these other positions of need that you just said. So, but the pressure is definitely on. I mean, it's been too long. We can't have another year of going, oh, well, we just didn't quite make the moves, because clearly there can't be any more pressure now to solve this offensive line revolving door problem that we've had. And there are plenty of guys in there that should be able to do that. And we've got the picks to do it, right? So,
well, and what experts are saying about this draft, this is not a top-heavy draft. This is a starter-heavy draft. So it's not going to be a huge difference between who you might see at an 18 to a 30 versus a 50th overall pick, right? This is a day two kind of draft where there are a lot of teams who have a lot of picks in that range. I think San Francisco has one more pick than us, and we're another team who has several picks, again, in that day two range. That's where you want to be. That's where you're getting your meat and potatoes of your football team. You're going to find a lot of value there. And so understanding that, also understanding that, again, we did not address these needs of free agency, and it's the same needs that we've had. Seahawks fans have been watching a poor offensive line since the Super Bowl appearances. Seahawks fans have been watching the same problems, the same ailments, and Seahawks fans are getting frustrated. So if you can't figure it out this year, it's year two with this coach. You've rebooted the whole thing. You got a new offensive coordinator. Mike Macdonald, right? We got to see what he's really about. Obviously, he's not the next person on the totem pole. If this draft goes to crap, I don't think he's the one who gets cut. I think they go to a Schneider first. But Macdonald has something to prove here too, and that's why this is so important for both of those guys.
Hey, real quick before we get further into this, I missed the comment here by Colin Clark. He says, "Yo, Noah, it's CJ Finesse. I played the national anthem on the guitar on the news, and you announced me before I went on for Shoot Fest. I wonder if you remember, and I hope you're doing well, brother." Do you remember that from Colin Clark, a.k.a. CJ Finesse?
Well, and because I met him at Shoot Fest, which is, honestly, I think it's a really cool event. It's here in Spokane, and it's a gentleman who runs a Genesis Verona, and what he does is he wants to get people back at the mall and spending time at the mall for fun, doing positive things, bringing people together. So he does a horse tournament in the mall. So it's like basketball where all you can do is shoot from different spots. No dribbling, no running around, no layups, no dunking. All you can do is shoot. So it's an equalizer, allowing even people who might not be mobile to play. And so, that's part of the idea behind it. That's the event where I met CJ, and he was a fantastic musician, first of all. We also, there was an after party there that we may or may not have linked up at, but great guy. Absolutely. I remember you, brother. Keep up the great work.
I love it. Small world brought together by the power of social media. Look at that. So tomorrow, I think you said it right as far as the pressure being on Schneider really kind of being on the hot seat potentially if he doesn't make some really effective moves here. I'm curious to, I know how we want to break this down. I guess the first question I would ask you, man, is if you were to get in the head of John Schneider, or I guess contrast and compare what you would like to do at 18 and what you expect John Schneider to do, because there's a lot of talk out there that we won't be celebrating any picks tomorrow, that Schneider's going to drop back, I don't know, maybe late first and maybe get another later in the draft pick. Or I guess, do you feel like the Seahawks should be picking at 18, or do you like the idea of them dropping back? Because personally, I don't want to see them drop back. I feel like I've seen so many of the quantity over quality moves from before, and what's the point of having two or three extra guys who don't amount to anything as opposed to just getting the one who you know is going to be high impact? That's my feeling. It's like you can have all these extra picks, but if they don't turn into anything, what's the point? That's my feeling. But what do you think? How will you feel if Schneider drops back at 18?
Well, hey, look, Norb, are you not a businessman? Come on. If it's the right deal, I'll take it. Yeah, I'll trade back. I don't need to pick tomorrow. I'm just fine with that as long as we're not losing out on value and we're actually coming up on capital, right? I saw a couple mock drafts where we trade back from 18 overall to like 34. So we're, 2-3 picks into the second round. Well, we pick up an additional second or an additional third, and then we get like a next year pick. I like the sound of that. If we're talking about because remember, what makes this draft so interesting, first of all, you don't have a whole bunch of quarterbacks who are one of one, right? It's not like last year's draft where you got Jane Daniels, you got all these guys, 5-6 quarterbacks going in the first round, historic records being broken. That's not this year. And if that is this year, guys are reaching, teams are reaching. Shedeur Sanders could be available at 18, and I don't hear a lot of Seahawks clamoring about him, a lot of Seahawks fans clamoring about him. He could drop right past us. He could be a second-round pick, and he could be the second quarterback off the board. That's what's so interesting about this draft. And also, 18, you're right at that range where you're losing out on the blue chippers. If one falls to you, okay, go get them. Absolutely, I'm with you. Make that move happen. But you're also at that range. I've done several of these mock drafts now, and what you'll see is you get there, and there's like 4 or 5 guys all pretty similarly high on your board. You trade back, build some extra capital in a year where you already got a bunch of draft picks, and that's what you're doing anyways. Maybe you're giving yourself an opportunity to use those picks the next day to trade up for a guy who you really want, right? So I wouldn't entirely rule it out if the price is right. And considering the amount of guys who they might be looking at versus the value that they could get by trading back, it could make some sense.
Yes, if not at the cost of losing one of those really good blue chippers that could make the difference. Yeah, that's what makes me nervous.
Do you have your eyes on a guy?
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to. So I talked about this in the video yesterday, early part of the day. I've really adjusted my expectations on this draft this year, because the reality is, we got 10 picks this year, right? You're lucky if you hit on 40% of them. And when I say hit, meaning that you have guys who become starters, if not immediately, sometime in their first year, definitely by the second, and make it into their second contract. Would that qualify as hitting with a guy on the draft? Because if they don't pan out and they're off the team at the end of their rookie contract, it's kind of a fail, right? If they don't come back for a second contract. So to me, it's like, if that's the measuring point, if nothing else, I would like to see reach that impact point. I want 2 linemen and a tight end. You get that, and those guys are here to stay for another several years past their rookie season, their rookie contract. I'll be pretty happy. Now that seems pretty low. Like, Norb, your expectations are like, if that's it, that's all you're hoping for. But there's a possibility we could have another one of those years where in 5-6 years, they're all gone onto other teams or released to nowhere. And that would be like, we accomplished nothing if it turns out to be like that. So I would rather have 3 really good guys in that category and the rest be nothing than to have nothing. You know what I'm saying? So to me, that is what I'm hoping for out of this draft. A high-impact tight end, which we haven't had in a long time, and blue-chip, long-lasting offensive linemen that are here to stay for a long time.
To clarify, not defense. So you don't want a
defensive lineman. I'm not saying I don't want them, but I'm saying if I have to choose the ones that are going to succeed and be here to be the impact, those are the 3 positions I minimally want to feel good about this draft.
Fair, reasonable.
Am I off? Am I missing something big here?
The 2 O-line is what really sells it, and the tight end just fits the offensive system with a Clint Kubiak. He's going to want a guy who, and everyone's saying it, but he is going to want a guy who can double as a fullback at times, who they can throw in motion, put wherever they need him, and go hit somebody in the nose. I fully agree that for this offense to be successful, they have to lean into it. Clearly they have. They're going to do that by going after a tight end. So this is not going to be any success at all without those 3 positions. I agree. But I tell you this, you got a hard time convincing me that any of those 3 players are coming off the board at 18. If any, it's going to be tight end, and it's going to be the second best tight end in the draft because Warren's not going to be there. But I have a strong feeling they're going. If they pick at 18, I feel like they're taking a defensive tackle. Didn't that feel like Seattle?
And I'm not gonna be mad about it because you can go and say, yeah, well, we do need that. And Mike Macdonald's a defensive guy. But then I keep thinking, that offensive, like, it keeps going back to, do you remember how he felt every week last year watching this team? How many times we saw guards looking like revolving doors and traffic cones with guys just busting right through, hitting our running backs in the backfield. Gino with no time, he's running for his life the moment he takes his third step on his drop back. And it doesn't matter who the quarterback is, it doesn't matter who the running back is, it doesn't matter what receivers we got out there. If that same formula continues, they might as well put me at quarterback back there. They're dead. And I want to fix that so badly because when I think of the other needs and issues that we have, there's no other need as bad as that needs to be solved. You know, I mean, I love the defense. I love the trajectory that it's on. And I love that it's getting better to a point where, Mike Macdonald's doing what he did in Baltimore. He's kind of following that same, pattern here and fixing things. But doggone it, if we're going to move receivers and get quarterbacks and bring back Drew Lock and, all these things, if you're the weakest link, you're only as strong as the weakest link in your offensive line. And man, it's going to be, if it's not the first pick, well, doggone it better be number 2. Yeah. It better be the second one. Because if it's not number 2, I'm going to be really starting to get my blood boiling.
Well, hey, Norby, you catch yourself here, right? Because look, the nitty-gritty details, number 2 and number 3 are 2 picks apart. So if they passed at 2, they took a guy who they thought, I think it's Denver who's sitting between our picks. If they took a guy who they think the next team will take, and then they go get their lineman, okay, all right. As long as you continue to supplement the offensive line by picking more guys down the road, I think what we have here is a valuation problem, okay? Because John Schneider doesn't spend big on guards in free agency or interior offensive linemen in general. Doesn't spend big. Remember who was the GM when we traded Max Unger for Jimmy Graham? Do you remember who that was?
The Seahawks GM.
Yeah.
The Seahawks GM has been the same guy since 2010, my friend.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So exactly my point is that he doesn't value interior offensive linemen, and come to the draft, he doesn't want to take those guys early. He's had opportunities in years past, and he has passed. What's the last guy we took high? Jermaine Ifedi? How did that go? And wasn't he a tackle?
He was a tackle, right tackle.
Right tackle, exactly. So they don't value interior offensive linemen very high. So I look at our draft picks. We're picking first at 18. I don't think we're taking one there. We're picking second at 50 and 52. I think we take one between the two of them. And then I think we're looking at pick 82 or 92, and that's where we get another. Do I think that's enough? No. I think we need at least 3 out of this draft. I think we need a right guard, a left guard, and a center, or at least somebody who can do a little bit of both. We need a lot of guys are talking about a Banks in the first round. If you take him, he could potentially fill in for an Abraham Lucas. You bounce one of them inside to guard. I think that's a potential option as well. But I think you're going to need versatile guys. You're going to need a lot of picks. I agree with you that we need at least 2 long-term starters out of this. When do we take them? I just want to, lower my expectations as a Seahawks fan and understand they're not taking an interior offensive lineman at 18 overall as much as we might want that.
Just because he hasn't doesn't mean that he shouldn't or should. Am I saying that right? Right? I mean, just because I generally don't like to order salads versus getting fries with my meal doesn't mean that I should think differently, right? Maybe I should learn by seeing those extra pounds here, and that maybe I have to change my ways. Just because you've done it the same way doesn't mean he should, because it's clear that he doesn't value offensive interior linemen, and thus we have a team that looks like they don't value interior offensive linemen. That's the problem. At some point, you got to look in the mirror, John Schneider, and go, maybe I need to change my philosophy here because something ain't been working for the past 10 years. Maybe I need to change that in 2025. And by the way, I got to shout out Dogzilla Monster because somebody was asking, is this actually live? It is. And he agrees with me. Thank you very much. Says 2 linemen and a tight end will be awesome.
Yes.
Is that too much to ask?
Also the community, man. You're on it.
Okay.
That's a term we use.
let me ask you this, because, we have so many ways of answering this question, but let's say at 18, Tyler Warren, by some miracle, tight end out of Penn State, is still on the board. And you've got a blue chip offensive tackle top on your chart and an offensive guard top on their chart, whatever their board looks like. You know they're there. They know they're going to be there at 18. Do you pull the trigger on any of those 3 if those guys top of your board are there at 18?
It's all value. I'm taking Warren. I'm absolutely taking Warren because I don't think there's as far as a drop-off between the top offensive lineman of the position that we want the most. Right, left guard, I would say, is the position that I want the most, at least. But somebody who could fill in at center. But I don't think there's as much of a drop-off between the top guy and a guy that we can get with some of those other picks that we have pretty quickly after, as there will be between Tyler Warren and the tight ends available with those later picks.
You mentioned the second best tight end. Would that be the one out of Michigan?
Yes.
Is he the clear number 2? But you're saying the big drop between Warren,
those 2 and exactly. Well, because I think. Sorry.
Like what you're saying is, if Warren's gone, but Loveland is there at 18, you're not taking that position unless it's Tyler Warren. He's the only one who warrants taking at 18. You wouldn't take Loveland at 18.
I would say so. Me personally, I would not. I would trade back and take Loveland because I think that you can, and because of the other value and talent that's on the board. No matter who goes at the start of this draft, there's going to be some guys there at 18. There are going to be some guys. So because of that, You have to weigh their talent versus what else is available, the amount of talent at other positions versus need versus what can I get later on. And I think when you put all that into an equation and it comes out of the genie's bottle, I think if Warren's there, he is worth it. You take him, you run away, you're happy, you get draft picks with the next couple picks, and you don't have to worry about tight end again for a very long time.
Mm-hmm. Pops P earlier in the chat asked, do you do best player available at 18 or reach for O lineman? That's kind of what we're debating right now. Let me ask you this. If, let's say it's your board, right? You're Schneider, and I'm focusing on just what I just talked about. I want to get a couple of linemen and tight ends. Who is at the top of your board when it comes to offensive interior lineman, offensive tackle, and tight end? Can you reveal who is at the top of that list for you?
Well, let's start with the obvious. Mr. Warren, okay, right? Tight end, right? So we'll knock him off the list. Then I'm going to throw you a little curveball here because I'm going to say the same name for both in terms of realistically what could be there and who we could go get. And I'm going to say Mr. Kelvin Banks Jr., whose draft stock has fallen quite a bit because of poor performance against Georgia. But here's a guy who, between him and Abraham Lucas, we got one really good right tackle, and we have one really good offensive lineman filling in at right guard next to the right tackle. And either way you slice that cake, I am a very happy birthday boy. You feel me? Like that sounds pretty good to me. So I take him above anybody else in terms of interior offensive lineman or exterior offensive lineman. And I am outside offensive lineman would be the better term. And I would make one of them earn the job over the other, and the other one's kicked inside to right guard. Because you're also
so you don't really separate the two. You're saying if he could play tackle, they could play guard if push comes to shove.
No, not in general. I'm saying in this case, and the reason is because we also have to weigh the Abraham Lucas injury factor, because he has not played consistently for the last several years in the NFL. We love the guy. We want him to be here, but we need a guy who, if push comes to shove, can fill in at right tackle and be elite against that left end of the defense. That is a big fear. And so that's why I would lean towards him, is because you understand the fact that our right tackle also is injury prone. Mind you, Banks could win the job. Banks could absolutely win that job, and then Abraham Lucas becomes the right guard. Is he a perfect fit at guard? No. But I'm talking realistic here. I'm thinking what Seattle's looking at. They want versatile guys. Maybe they're running out some 6 lineman sets, so they're both playing tackle. One of them's tackle, one of them's tight end, right? So I would make that move first. If you're talking about interior offensive linemen, I look at a Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State. That's who I think could rotate around a little bit on the inside. At least that would be the idea with him. But I'm looking at a Banks first, just because I feel like his raw talent is superior.
What about Tyler Booker and Will Campbell? Those are a couple of guys who've been put pretty high up on boards.
Right.
Yet you seem to feel like they don't deserve to be there. At least, is that a Seahawks thing, or just the way you evaluate it yourself?
No, Will Campbell's gone. He is not going to be available.
So this is more of a reality at 18 type of thing.
It's a who's going to be there and where do I go with it? Yes, absolutely.
Booker, will he be there?
I think Booker will be. You're talking about a true guard, right? This is a guy who, again, we're not talking about what the Seahawks would do. I'm telling you, I don't see a world where they take this guy here. So if I'm going to get this guy, I think we trade back for him and then get him later on the same day or early on day 2.
And you think
that's the standpoint?
Yeah.
I think he's a late first round pick. So I think if we're going to get him, we trade back to 23, 24 in that range, and we draft him right then. I really have a hard time seeing Seattle doing that.
Well, and that perfect timing look at this. John Schneider with the super chat apparently has nothing better to do on draft week than to come in on my live stream. And he says, I don't draft interior O-line in the first round, wide receiver instead. Well, yeah, maybe it really is him. Thank you for the super chat back, by the way, Mr. Schneider. And I hope you'll be listening to this because we're trying to share our infinite wisdom with y'all. What was it? Dogzilla Monster was talking about, where was it? There was this conversation about how Howard M says, you draft the best player with first-round picks. You don't draft for need with your first-round picks, he says. Sijent's here as well. Dogzilla Monster also says, many mocks by famous guys have Booker and Zabel going in the early teens. Zabel definitely... Booker, I've heard some arguments saying that Booker may be good for certain teams, but not necessarily with this new scheme that Clint Kubiak's going to be doing with this whole zone blocking scheme where you need not necessarily big dogs taking on the guy in front of you, but guys who can move more laterally. We'll see.
Lucas.
And Lucas, by the way, I know the whole injury-prone thing, but this is like one of the few seasons where he's actually finishing the year healthy and starting the year presumably healthy, assuming nothing bad happens between now and August.
There you go. The season is far from started, Noah. We haven't even had the draft, and you're saying Abraham Lucas
he was already getting surgery when the season was over last year. We weren't even talking about training camp. He was already getting surgery done. So at least he's not having surgery right now. So that's that's a good thing.
I'm a huge Lucas fan. If he's there, he's a fantastic player. I just cannot rely on him right now. And if you have a hole at right tackle and a hole at right guard, you're really screwed.
Well, Howard M. says Abraham Lucas is too tall to be a guard.
I hear you. And conventional wisdom would say that. But again, you talk about the zone run scheme. You talk about just his skill set and the way Abraham Lucas is not a guy who – and this is a guy who I watched on the sideline for several years at WSU. This is a guy who is so technically smart. I feel like if anybody had the ability to shift from tackle to guard based off mindset, mental power, combined with technique, I feel like he is a fantastic technician. And I feel like he could absolutely find a way to find some use as an interior offensive lineman. Remember, we're not comparing him to the best the best right guards available in free agency because we're never going after them. We're not comparing him to the best right guards available in the draft because we're not going after them. So we're comparing him to our day 3 pick that is going to come in and disappoint even though we get excited about him, right? So this is who we're comparing him to. At least we have an NFL starter at right guard in Abraham Lucas, if that is the case.
I hope that's not the case.
I'm telling you, man.
All right, what would I'm prepared, always prepared, but not hoping for. What would be the most frustrating choice by Seattle at 18? That would just make you pull your hair out if they were to do this, right? Because basically you're saying if Warren's at tight end, that would be great. He's not going to get an offensive line, but if he shocked us and got an interior offensive lineman, we'd be happy, right? Even if we don't expect it, you would not be mad about it, right?
Well, no.
If he took Zabel at guard at 18, would you be upset about that? No,
I'm very happy.
We'd be happy about that.
Yes.
What would you not be happy about? What would you just piss you off?
I'll tell you. I saw someone mock this guy to us at 18. 18. We got Luther Burden III out of Missouri, the receiver. Okay, we're not even talking about the best receivers in the draft. This is like 4 or 5 receivers down.
Who mocked that pick?
I can't even remember, but it was so ridiculous. It drove me nuts. I got out of there quick. Clearly, they didn't know what they were talking about. But you want to talk about what would drive me nuts, right? What would grind my gears? Drafting a receiver too early. We do not need a first-round receiver this year. Let's just make that clear. I don't care if Tet falls. I don't want him. Okay? Leave him to the San Francisco 49ers, to whoever else is going to draft him. There's no disrespect against him. He is a fully capable wide receiver. But the problem is the Seahawks have made moves in free agency, DeMarcus Lawrence, Cooper Kupp, Sam Darnold, that indicate we're in win now mode. And as who is it? Mike Salk, Brock and Salk in the morning. The way he explains it, I actually really got to give him some credit here, because you have to earn the ability to go draft receivers. You have to earn the ability to go draft corners early, right? And you earn it by building a very strong physical interior line of scrimmage, both sides. And we have not earned that, so we need to build that.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying. Let's shift to another thing that might get people's blood boiling, because there's been a lot of talk about Seattle potentially, if the right guy falls, the right quarterback drops to Seattle, even though this is not a quarterback, star-studded draft. Is there a possibility that Seattle could take a quarterback at 18? Is there even the remote possibility?
Yeah, well, and notice I didn't mention that as what would drive me nuts, okay? Because it wouldn't.
You'd be more upset if they took a receiver. You would not be as upset if they took a quarterback. Because
at least they only have a plan.
Yeah.
For the future of the quarterback position, this is the problem with the Seattle Seahawks. We had a chance at 5 where we could have gone up if we really liked somebody. Obviously, we weren't sold on Anthony Richardson. It looks like that was the right call right now. And you go further up in the draft, the Bryce Youngs, the CJ Strouds, you really would have had to go up in that draft and give up a lot of capital in order to get there. But how often is Seattle picking high? This was a down year for Seattle, right? And we were 18th overall pick. If we finish any better in our season, that pick's only getting worse. And yes, everyone's saying next year's draft class is supposed to be fantastic for quarterbacks. That being said, if we fell in love with a guy like a Shedeur Sanders, I think that is a guy who I would sit back and be like, okay, I'll listen, right? At least I'm saying, okay, I'll listen, because it's a plan for the future. There's an out with Sam Darnold's contract after this first year. And if we were to draft Shedeur and then at 50-52 go center, left guard, or center/right guard and left guard, and then turn around in the 3rd round, draft a defensive tackle, and then immediately after draft a receiver or a tight end, right? Because that fills your need a little better. There is a route here where they draft Shedeur if they fall in love with this guy and they still dominate this draft, win this year, and then win going forward.
Is that the quarterback you think they should take? I mean, we know who's not going to be. Cam Ward's not going to be there. What if Jackson Dart? There's been a lot of talks about potentially Seahawks linking to him. Who are the other quarterbacks that are kind of like the potential interest by the Seahawks?
Quinn Ewers, you fall further down the board. The Tyler Shaw, is it?
There's another one. Who's the other guy that the Seahawks are potentially linked to? There's another guy I'm forgetting right at this point. But is Sanders head and shoulders better than those quarterbacks? I mean,
that's what I would take. And the reason I take a guy like Sanders and
Jalen Milroe. That's the one. Thank you. Gridflow. That was what I was thinking about. Jalen Milroe.
Don't take him.
Why not?
Well, so my concern with him, first of all, he can't throw the ball. I think
that's a problem.
That's the main problem. Is he is not. He is a running quarterback through and through. He has always struggled with decision making, with finding ways to get the ball down the field. And I had a roommate who is a diehard Alabama fan. He also, because I was asking him last year, before, during, and after the season, hey, what do you think? Should Seattle go get this guy? Stay away. He says, stay away. And I believe him. You don't got to tell me twice. I'm looking at Shedeur, not just because of what he's done on the field, right? He's shown an immense amount of leadership. He's shown an incredible playmaking ability. He can keep plays alive. He can work with an inferior offensive line. Who does that sound like? He's going to need that here, first of all.
Not unless they draft the way I want them to, but yeah. Well, but if you do that, we're probably not getting a quarterback like him at that stage. So it's like you got to you're trading one for the other, right? You can't have your cake and eat it too. But continue.
Well, Shador's been the guy. Jackson State, Colorado. He doesn't go to the big name. He doesn't go to the most popular team. He goes to the smaller team and makes it a spot. And that's what we need, is someone to make Seattle the spot. Because Pete Carroll made Seattle the spot. Russell Wilson never did. People looked at Russ and understood that Seattle could compete. But Pete set the culture. Pete set the aura. Russ didn't set no aura. All the aura that Russ had was problematic for the rest of the locker room for the most part, right? So Shador coming to Seattle sets an aura of, I got this. We got this. Let's do this. And I would fully support that. If that is where it goes, I would at least listen.
Gotta acknowledge Dogzilla Monster with the super chat. Thank you very much for the support. He said, how much weight do you put on nose tackle Desmond Watson?
I can't sit here and tell you I know too much about the guy. I'm not going to sit here and pretend.
So he's not exactly at the top of your list or priority order.
Look, I've heard about this guy. This is a guy that I've heard some guys say Seattle goes after, but he's a guy that we would go after a little bit later. He's not in the 18 range, obviously. But no, Norb, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know a whole bunch about this guy. He's a guy who could fill the need that Seattle has, which is nose tackle. So if they did go the route that you're talking about, where they go interior offensive lineman early on, boom, boom, or if they do you think there's any chance Seattle trades up?
Well, all right, so somebody threw that idea out here. Where is it? Oh, Modify says, trade Ken and pick 18 to move up and get the career tight end. That's a lot.
No. That's too much capital. And I understand that Ken Walker is not demanding much of a market. And to be honest, when you said we're going to go into something that might make Seahawks fans a little upset, I thought that's where you were going. I thought you were going to go to the Ken Walker trade. Have you heard what he's being mocked for?
What?
Like I saw mocks where he was for a 6th or a 5th round pick. What? I don't care if it's 1 year. We'll take Ken.
Yeah. I don't understand. You know, again, I put a lot of this blame on the lack of offensive line development, offensive line drafting, but I think Kenneth Walker's a good running back. We've seen what he can do, but again, you can't do it by yourself. You know, I would love to see what Saquon Barkley would have looked like on our running backfield last year. I'm telling you, he's not doing what he did last year. No. Not on our team.
It looked like the Giants version.
Exactly. I mean, did he just suddenly become good because he left the Giants? I don't think so. He got to run behind the best, biggest, baddest offensive line on the planet, and they won the Super Bowl behind that.
Yeah.
Blue chip offensive line. Are there enough signs telling John Schneider what is going to take to make the difference between, you know, not barely making the playoffs or one and done in the playoffs to actually taking it to the house all the way?
Ken Walker has breakaway speed. He has breakaway ability. He can get guys off of him in the right system, behind the right people. He can put up stats with the best running backs in the league. He could absolutely have a year where his numbers, at the very least, are. I'm not going to say that they would be Saquon's, because he is not Saquon, but they would be best in the NFL if he were in a situation like that.
Let's see. Alex says his philosophy: take the best player available at 18, then trade up into the early second round and draft the best guard available. I wouldn't hate that.
No, that's not a bad idea at all. And there's definitely, you start talking about day 2, there's a lot more room for trading up and down. Specifically trading up, though, because it's not going to cost you as much, and it would more fit Seattle's bill. So I could see that happening, but the problem is we're trading up for a guard.
We need look. Guard is like the least sexiest position next to long snapper, right? But we have a problem. We don't have one good guard, less two good guards that we can right now reliably count on to say we've got the guy there. We got two big holes right next to your quarterback and staring right down at your running back on every play right now. We got to solve at least one of those. Like, solve it, like, ready to go day one, solve it with this draft. I would love two, but we got to get at least one, man.
We can't have a Christian Haynes or several Christian Haynes.
No, man.
That. And see, that's who I'm talking about when I'm saying Abe Lucas as a guard. Okay, that's who we're competing with.
Speaking of tackles going to guards, you mentioned Jermaine Ifedi. For a long time when we were watching him, because it's like, man, he was not good, right? He didn't have good feet. He was always kind of a step behind. That's why he had to grab and hold and false start so many times. So many times I was thinking, why don't they move him to guard? Just try it, because he's not getting it done at tackle. You're kind of stuck with the guy. Why not move him in? I don't know. I don't know how the realities of converting, an outside. It feels easy to go, well, if he's good enough to be a tackle, he could be a guard, right? But maybe it's not that simple. But I would have liked to have seen him try, because it clearly didn't. He didn't work at tackle, at least not here.
Yeah, I mean, it's very different positions. A lot more pulling, I'd say, at guard. Depends on the scheme as well. But definitely want to be lower because you're in the quarterback's line of sight. So you don't want the guys who are too tall, and that's definitely part of it.
Yeah, good point. Howard M reminds us that center is also an issue. So we're talking about 3 of the 5 offensive linemen being a concern. I think we got to put some effort into that.
Well, let's not forget Abe Lucas over there. Like, I love the guy, but we need a backup plan.
Yeah, because the whole, what is it? Your best ability is availability. And I'd love for him to shock me and play, start the year off and play 17 straight games and then playoffs. We haven't really seen that yet, but you never know.
What if they traded for 5 for Will Campbell? That'd be a move. He's turned a new leaf. Again, it's a tackle, but
best available at that position. Not best available in the whole draft, but like I said, I would not. I am okay if they reach for that position this year, because I would be more than happy. I said this before. I would be more than happy that come October, November, people are saying, yeah, you know what? You really reached for Zabel or Will Campbell. It's like, yeah, but you know what? He was worth it. It was worth every penny, man. It'd be like somebody looking at your nice new shoes. Man, those are some nice shoes, man. You look quick. You look sharp. How much they cost you? Like $350. $350. You know what? You could have gotten those for $250. Yeah, but I paid $350 and I'm damn happy about it. So you don't have to give me any more crap for that. I would be happy to say that. Right? Nobody ever complains that you reached when the guy works out great for you.
You're right. It's the whole argument. Hey, if that's your guy, take him. If that's your guy, get him off the board. Make sure he's your guy. And normally people say that about quarterbacks, but when you're as desperate and thirsty for offensive linemen as we are, I'm with you. If we walk away with some linemen, I don't care when we have to. I just talked about trading up for a tackle.
I know.
I talked about trading up to the top 5.
I'm still saying the guards are the biggest problem here, but at least we have a tackle.
Well, my point more so being we're just adding someone to our offensive line. Yeah. And that is the point. Like, this, absolutely, if we walk away, if we take an interior guard, if we take a Zabel at 18,
you're okay with that?
I'm fine with it. Yes, because we're addressing the need. We need to address it, and we haven't, and that would let me sleep better between night 1 and night 2.
How do you think we did with our first pick last year?
I think it was good. I think Byron Murphy performed. He showed up in several big moments, and I think we're going to continue to build our interior defensive line around him and Lenny Will. I think that's why we go after a big nose tackle this year. Hankins is gone, right?
Hankins,
he's gone.
I think, yeah, I think so. I know we lost a bunch of interior guys. I think he's one of them. Yeah.
Yeah. So I definitely think they're going to address that.
I kind of agree with Jason Wolf in the comments. He says, I think Murphy was underwhelming.
Really?
Underwhelming because my expectations were, I made the mistake of falling in love with somebody who freaking said, he's kind of like Aaron Donald. Well, you start throwing words like that in there, your mind starts to go, woohoo, Aaron Donald. Well, I'll even take 60% of Aaron Donald and we'll still be pretty damn good. And it wasn't quite the Aaron Donald experience. Not to say that he's not ever going to become what we are hoping he'll be, but certainly last year, if I'm not mistaken, I think I had Jared Verse as one of my picks last year. Looking back, if you could do it all over again and go back in time a year from now, and Jared Verse, and Byron Murphy are both on the board, would you still make the same move? Honestly? Knowing what you know now, knowing what you know today, Jared Verse was what? Wasn't Defensive Rookie of the Year? Had a bunch of sacks in the playoffs? Uh-oh. I lost your picture. Are you like setting up something for me?
Are you here? Yeah, my computer's
okay,
tripping.
you're back.
Hold
You're
on.
back.
You got me?
I see. You're trying to get off the hook. You're trying to misdirect me here.
No. Let's not be confused now. Let's not be confused.
I'm just asking.
In the time, I wanted Jared Verse. Jared Verse absolutely made the draft pick look wrong. This is a Mike Macdonald pick, right? You want to start with, your interior of your defensive line. He wanted to build his defense from the inside out, and you understand why he did it, and you understand that we had some guys in Uchenna Nwosu and Aboye Mafe who could come off the edge and play really well. So that's why they leaned interior versus exterior. And heading into last year's draft, we talked about how big of a need it was. So they did address a need by drafting him. Now, that being said, you talk about the production, you talk about one-man wrecking crew. You saw what Jared Verse did to Minnesota. You saw what Jared Verse did to us. You saw what Jared Verse did even to Philadelphia, the way he was talking so much trash, and they almost have a chance to win that game in the end. Mm-hmm. So you're talking about a guy who performed significantly better than Byron Murphy in year one, but I don't think that's just because of the player. I think it's also very much because of the environment and where they're playing. Sean McVay gets guys fired up. Mike Macdonald, he's really smart. How much does he get the juice out of the guys? I don't know. That's more of a McVay thing for me. And I definitely feel
that's concerning. That's concerning if that's where you're putting some of the blame there for.
Well, but that's what it's been with Mike Macdonald. Since when have we ever had Macdonald and thought to ourselves, oh yeah, here's a guy who he just wins the room. Like he is just a motivational, like he just makes me want to run through a wall. I watched his first press conference and fell asleep. I was bored. Here's a guy who's extremely smart, brilliant with his craft, and that's why guys get behind him. McVay's a rah-rah guy. Macdonald's an X and O guy.
Yeah. Well, we've seen guys don't have to be rah-rah guys to be great coaches, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe it's a longer term plan. Maybe we'll see Jared Verse won the sprint, but maybe Byron Murphy will win the marathon. I mean,
yes.
I'm hoping that that's the case because obviously otherwise I'll be looking back 5 years later going, God, if we could have had this guy. But anyway, there's a lot of pressure here because it's almost worse when you have good draft opportunities than when like in the time when we were playing in the playoffs constantly and we're always picking at third, 27, 28, and you know what? That's what happens when you win the playoffs every year. You don't get those chances to get those higher picks. Well, then when you get the chance to get those higher picks, you better not miss the shot, man.
There's definitely some give and take there. I don't know. As a Seahawks fan, it always hurt me when we get to draft day and it's like, oh, Seahawks don't have any picks. Hey, we traded out of the first round. I'm watching all these great players change lives.
Well, it's like free agency too, right? As soon as the free agency frenzy kicks in, everybody, blah, 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 signed over here. Oh, that receiver just got a mega deal over here. Seahawks just, we'll wait. Yeah, we're good. We're good. Just wait till the rush the dough. We'll get the 25% clearance sale later, or none, or just don't go shopping at all. That's what the offensive line free agency period felt like. Felt like they were thinking about going shopping when it was discount Tuesdays, and they just decided not to take the shopping cart out. We don't need to shop. Well, we'll get it later. So it better be now, because this is later. There's no more later after this. Right? This is their only chance to bolster their offensive line is the next 3 days, starting tomorrow.
Well, and I have you heard rumors? I feel like I've heard some rumors about the Seahawks also banking on, and I really hope this isn't true, on some cap casualty guys. Like they're looking at some guys who after the draft aren't going to make the roster, and then we're like, oh yeah, come on, the Connor Williams of the world.
Like I said, it wouldn't surprise me because that's what it's been. Look how Connor Williams turned out. Guy left mid-season after snapping the ball over the quarterback's head several times, and then just walked out the door. I mean, that worked out real well. I think you would have snapped better on that, Noah. You play some center.
Yeah, back in my prime.
I got to answer the question. Main Street Paul asked me, are you going to be at the Seahawks draft party tomorrow in Seattle? Yes, I will. I said at the beginning of the show, I was able to finagle some VIP tickets. We'll be there. Yes, at the Mopop Museum of Pop Culture down there at the base of the Space Needle, taking in the sight. So I'm very much looking forward to it. It's going to be really the thick of things when it all goes down tomorrow. But yeah, Alex Cordero says to say McVay isn't an X's and O's coach is a bit disrespectful. I think he's great as a motivator and a tactical coach.
Let me respond. Yes, because you're right. He is great in X's and O's and as a motivator. But what I wasn't saying was that he's not an X's and O's guy. I'm saying he's not an X's and O's coach. What I mean by that is I feel like he's more well known as being the locker room guy, as being the fire, the rah-rah guy in the locker room. That is what he's known for, and that's what I was saying. Not that he's incapable, whereas Mike Macdonald, known for the X's and O's. I don't think McVay is known for that as much as his rah-rah, just because he is so fiery. He does have great energy. He is such a player's coach. I feel like that's more of his reputation, and that's what I was getting at. Because clearly he knows what he's doing. So, I guess kind of wrapping this up, putting a bow on it, this whole thing. We've gone on for about an hour and don't want to take up your entire evening, although I would be more than happy to. But what you kind of said at the beginning, in your dream scenario, with 10 picks, what positions do you want to see addressed? What do you minimally got to have upgraded when all is said and done? I mean, I think we've already said we've talked O-line to death, but what else do you got? Just give me your list. Let's go. All right, so in no order, but I have it written down. So I'm going to refer to my notes. It can be in order. Okay. It can be in order. But it's not in order. So I want a developmental quarterback. We need a tight end. We need a big wide receiver. We need a left guard. So that's 4. We need a right guard, a nose tackle, interior linebacker, a corner. We're at 8. We need, I would say, a second tight end / fullback. And then we need a guy who can rotate between either one of those guards needs to rotate between center and guard, or another guard / tackle. So another offensive line, fill in the blank, make that pick so that we have another backup option. So what I think I didn't hear you say, basically what you don't need, we don't need a punter. Nope. We don't need a kicker. Nope. We don't need a safety. Right? You didn't have safety in there, right? You didn't say safety. No, I did not have a safety. No. And I don't think you said quarterback either. I did say a developmental quarterback. You did say quarterback. Okay, you did say quarterback. Okay. Yep. But pretty much everything else is 2 tight ends, like 3 offensive linemen. We need 1 interior linebacker. We need a nose tackle. at least one. So we need to build in the trenches. And here's the thing: if we get an edge rusher, I'm not going to be mad.
I was just going to ask about that because you didn't really put that on your high-end list either. But we all know that you can never have enough pass rushers too. But at the expense of what?
When it's who are they going to replace in this lineup, and how are they going to have a bigger impact at that position than if we did take a offensive lineman?
Yeah. Kyle James of the Super Chat, thank you so much for the support. Says, the Mariners are on. Why are you not watching? Well,
because of this expensive stream service.
Two reasons. Yeah, one, this is the window I had for Mr. Noah Boelter, so I was not going to throw that away. Number one. Number two, I just cut my cable too, by the way, this past year. It was hard to do, but man, I needed to cut some costs. So it was saving us quite a bit of money, our business, to do so. But that means I don't have my usual, Root Sport's even on cable anymore? Isn't it all streaming now? So I guess it didn't matter, right?
Well, Root is there, and they play replays of the games, and I watch those, but I haven't bought the streaming service yet, just because I'm so sick of this. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of the NFL having every single game on a different streaming network just so that you'll forget to turn it off after.
Right. Yeah. Well, I found myself, I was paying several $100s a month, for Xfinity, which frankly I wasn't using at all. I mean, it's got like 5,000 channels. The only ones I'd ever watch are, once a week on football weekends and the draft. Yeah. That was it. I was like, man, what am I paying all this money for? So, so something has to give. So now I'm listening to a lot more of Mariners radio, to be honest with you, and looking at it on my phone. That's kind of my way of watching the games. And then I'll watch the highlights on YouTube later on. So, yeah, I've had to downgrade my experience to save some money. But I'm glad to hear that the Mariners are winning 4-1, says Jason Wolf. So that's cool.
Are we still in the Sox series? Or are we?
We lost. We got smacked around yesterday at Fenway. They're up 4-1 in this one. That seems to be the Mariners. Lately, they've been doing pretty good, and it seems like if they're going to lose a series, they lose the first game and then they get the next two. So let's hope they can pull that off.
Again, we know Julio every single year. His bat is weak at the start, and he is now. And for us to have other guys like Rowdy Tellez stepping up and Dylan Moore at times. When it matters, Randy Rosarena has balled out like Polanco all year. Like, can we
Cal Raleigh, though, man. What do you say about Cal Raleigh, man? I mean, he's earning every bit of that pricey contract. He's earning every bit of it right now. So, loving the move.
And that's what you're hearing from people is that you're glad you paid him before he got the thick bat, the torpedo bats, right?
Yeah. Zardy with the super chat, thank you very much, says, if Hawks need a tight end, Macdonald knows Andrews. Trade?
No, not after that. That's like trading for Blair Walsh after he misses the game-winning field goal. That was a horrible idea. Why would you do that? And what happened the next year? We lost 2 games against the Falcons at home and I think against the Cardinals at home where we missed field goals that ended up being the difference in the game and missed the playoffs based on record.
Yeah, but you're not gonna put Mark Andrews' entire career down the tubes because of, albeit one of the worst times to drop a football. But that doesn't define his entire. He's been a pretty damn good tight end.
Hey, lest you not forget what he did the rest of last year, right? He had some games, he had some stretches where he performed as a fantasy football player. I am well aware of when he did perform, but he was very inconsistent, especially early on in the year. He's been uninvolved in the offense, and there were days when Isaiah Likely was their best tight end.
Yeah. He had a fumble that game too, didn't he?
Dog, he threw that game away. Like, he intentionally lost the game if anybody had money on them.
Yeah, I mean, for a guy, I think he rarely ever turned the ball over, man. He was just like, you all started to wonder,
well,
some conspiracy theory going on here?
The principle behind it is you don't want to bring in a guy right off of his worst moment. And because that's what he's going to remember. That's what's going to be stuck with him. That's the energy he's bringing as he joins your organization. So and I just don't want to bring a guy in who that's the last thing he did was had to post on Instagram 3 days later because of how difficult it was for him. I feel horrible for the guy. I hope he's okay. Yeah. He should figure that out in Baltimore.
Yeah. No, I would make. I'm not defending it because I want to make the move. I'm just simply taking devil's advocate here. Kyle James asks the super chat. Thank you very much. It says, "Do you care about the storm? Is there a storm coming?
Yes.
How's the weather? I haven't looked at the weather. Just kidding,
Bro.
Sorry. I mean, I'll be honest. I should be more invested in it and pay more attention. I haven't really as much as I should have, and it's been pretty common that they'll talk about. For a while, they were talking about how we hadn't had a championship in Seattle sports in such a long time, and then meanwhile the Storm kept winning. I was like, hey, hello, we just won a couple here. They've been pretty great.
It's been a rough several seasons, though. They're in a rebuild.
Yeah, now they are. Yeah, it was going when it was going good. They were amazing.
They were fantastic. And then Breanna Stewart went to New York, and then
yeah, happens to every great team, right?
So, do care about them. Very excited for the second overall pick, as well as some of the other picks in this draft. Getting Sundle's sister. Serena, is that her name? Serena Sundle, who now is going to play, and Jake Sundle's sister.
You're asking the wrong guy if you're asking me. But maybe in the chat somebody can answer that question. Surely somebody will.
Come on, you've heard the storyline. Sundle, Jake Sundle, the Seahawks center, right?
Yeah, Sundell. I think it's Sundell.
Is it Sundell?
I think it's Sundell. It threw me off. I heard it was Sundell. Anyway, what about him?
Or is it Jake? Is it Connor? I can't even remember.
No, Connor's the other guy who snapped balls over the head. I know what you're talking about.
Connor Williams?
Yeah, that's the Connor. I don't think it's Connor Sundell.
So it's Jake
It might be James Sundell.
No, Jake. I thought it was Jake. Is it Jalen? Jalen Sundell. Somebody said Jalen.
I had heard that they said that he could be. Maybe he's the answer at center.
No, he's not. But his sister just got drafted to the Storm.
Okay. Just got drafted.
Yes.
Little baby sister.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like a cool story. Like they're running Seattle now.
Okay.
Clearly they're not if you don't.
Well, not yet, but it's the start of something. Maybe we'll be talking about it in a year from now going, how did we not know about that? Larson wants to know, do you like Bobo? Could he become a starter? I love him. I like Bobo too, but I hear a lot of people say, he's not good. He's way overhyped. He made like one spectacular catch, and then everybody thought he was the greatest thing since sliced bread. I don't know. What do you think? Does Bobo have a way? Can he make a name for himself in this opportunity now with two of our stock guys who've been here forever? Can Bobo step up and become a guy, or is he just going to be one of those guys that's just lower tier, gets in every once in a while for an occasional play?
That is a really, really good question. It's a question I wasn't really thinking about with Bobo, but he has. I'm gonna just go with swag. That's probably the PG version. Like he's just got he's got aura about him, where no matter what, he just feels like that guy who can catch any ball you throw his way. He seems like the guy who can make a play when you need it most. Who was the guy who had back-to-back catches for the Cardinals? Or no, for the Packers. Janis. He's got Janis energy. What was the guy's name? Jake Janis, or what was his first name? The guy who in the playoff game, Green Bay at Arizona, when they were down, it was 4th and 15, game's over. Aaron Rodgers, Hail Mary, first of all to Jeff Janis.
Okay.
And first it's midfield, Jeff Janis, and then he keeps the game alive, and then ties the game, sends it to overtime by hitting Jeff Janis on a Hail Mary. And that is the type of energy that I see with Jake Bobo, where it's like, don't worry about it. I got it. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he gets so few opportunities, right? I mean, he's barely even on the field, for one. And then how often does he actually get thrown to? I just feel like the sample size is very small. So given more opportunities, could he do more? I like the way the guy blocks. He's aggressive. He's kind of just a workman, just gets it done. And I feel like this will be a chance for him to, if there's ever been a chance for Bobo to go Bobo style, like I said in my prediction music video. I had a whole section devoted to Bobo style. You know, I don't know if you saw that. It was Gangnam Style, but Bobo style. Oh, it's crazy, stupid crazy. Should have had that prepped. I could have played it. So yeah, this was a chance. This is his window, man. This is his window to capitalize on the exodus of Lockett and DK. Kyle James with the super chat says, did you used to watch all 162 games for the Mariners? No. You know how much time it takes to watch 162 baseball games?
Before the pitch clock.
Before, even with the pitch clock, it's a little quicker now, but before the pitch clock, it'd take like 3+ hours. I mean, watching a football game, if you watch a full season, 17 games. 17! 162 games. I watched a lot of Mariners games, but usually it's like highlights and occasionally, how are they doing? 8-0. Yeah. I'm not watching the rest of this one. You have to pick and choose. But I love tracking it. As a kid, I've been a Mariners fan since the beginning, and one of my favorite things was to spend the summer, driving around the car, listening to Dave Niehaus call this losing team's games. But I loved it, man. Dave Niehaus could read the phone book, and it would be like, story time. Like, Noah Boelter. 509-732-6653. What a guy. I mean, everything that came out of his mouth was butter. Did you ever listen to him? You're younger, so I don't know if you ever had that experience. Did you?
Yes.
You had some? Okay. Because if you didn't, you missed out. If you never listened to Dave Niehaus, if you're too young because he died before you got a chance to hear him, go back and listen to some old recordings of play-by-play with Dave Niehaus, if you can find them somewhere on YouTube or something, because he was special, man. That dude he was like my guiding voice when it came to the summers of my childhood. So good. So good. All right, I want to do this because I know we got to wrap up here soon, but getting away from the draft, I think we talked the draft enough. I want to just throw out a few of these names that we got in free agency, and I just want to get like your one sentence reaction. It's just like I'm just say, here's the word, you react to me, and just tell me your feeling about how it hits you.
All right. Quick reaction.
So it's like quick like word association. Sam Darnold.
Oh, I hope.
Oh my God, that's the best you can give me. I hope. We're off to a bad start. Cooper Kupp.
Not confident.
Cooper Kupp.
Homecoming, but not for long.
Fair enough. DeMarcus Lawrence.
Hope he still got it.
God, there's a lot of hoping in this free agency. Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
Really?
Let's see. Is there anything else worth mentioning here? Drew Lock.
Oh, Drew Lock. Okay. Like, dog, this. It hurts that we're talking about him.
Well, there wasn't much else to talk about when that happened. So, I mean,
no.
Not you mean the fact that the fact that we're talking about him in Seattle again?
Exactly. Why did we get rid of him and then bring him back? His one game showed that against the Eagles showed that he earned so much over there, and we're going to bring in Sam Howell, but now we're bringing him back. It's just the whole thing is confusing. I don't love the move.
Well, I think it speaks more to the other Sam, which I was going to throw up in the next Sam Howell.
Time to move on. And Drew Lock is better. I confess.
Yeah, he is. And that's why, right? I mean, Drew Lock left Seattle. He was the Giants, right? Did he play for the Giants?
Yes.
Play is actually probably the bad choice of words because he didn't really play for them.
Term.
He kind of, I don't know what he was doing over there. He was not part of the fun. So clearly, whatever we sold him on what he could do, they never took advantage of. So here he is. Good backup, right? Good backup.
No, can I ask you one? Just the thoughts about this potential pairing.
Okay.
Pete Carroll, Ashton Genty.
I already know this. my buddy I just met with yesterday, my buddy Rob, he's my kindergarten pal, diehard Raiders fan since the beginning. Before he even knew what football was, he just thought the uniforms looked cool, and he's been a Raiders fan ever since. His son is now working for the Seahawks in their media department, by the way, so now he has to like begrudgingly wear Seahawks colors because he goes to the games on thanks to his son. But first thing he told me was, we started talking draft, and he asked me what I think, The first thing I said, so what about you? Oh, got to get Genty, man. So
that'd be hard as a Seahawks fan, right?
I mean, it would be something for Pete Carroll. I mean, for whatever he's trying to build over there. They got a lot of holes to fill, but boy, that would be a move.
Yeah.
The Raiders are in a good position to get it.
Yeah, they are. Actually, they are. Have you heard the rumor? I think where Ashton Genty goes is going to be the most interesting part of this draft, at least early, just because I've seen mocks where he goes to Jacksonville at 5. I know Cowboys fans who are clamoring for him.
I was talking to, we did a mock draft last night, and Cameron Hughes, who he actually works at Wazoo, he's going to school at Wazoo. He's a sophomore, finishing up his sophomore year, but he's working with the coaching staff. And he was talking about how when they played against Genty, all they did was figure out, let's do whatever we got to do to stop this guy. Load the box, whatever, and he still ran for like 300 yards or something. Did you know that game? Well,
for WSU against yes,
right?
Yes,
they did everything to try to solve that problem, and nothing worked. Right? It's like it's one thing. It's that whole thing, right? You're good when you can say, you know what we're gonna do. Just try to stop us. Just try to stop me, and you can't do it.
Doesn't that sound like Pete Carroll?
Yeah. He had that. He had that. We had that feeling for a while.
That's what I'm scared of. As a Seahawks fan, I just you don't want to see, your ex doing better without you.
I know.
I mean, you do, but you don't.
Well, and I was really a fan, or I should say, when I first heard about the trade with Geno going to the Raiders, I was kind of rooting for him because I wanted him here. I was not ready to, again, I've always been but you know me, I'm always the guy, Russell, come on, he could get it done. Pete Carroll, he deserves another year. Oh, come on, Geno, get a good offensive line. He's going to be good. Every time the Seahawks, the world that be out there proves me wrong that I didn't know what I was talking about. But after I heard how the negotiation or lack thereof went down with Geno, I was like, man, he just really didn't want to be here. It wasn't about the money because the Raiders didn't pay him some stupid, crazy money that blew the Seahawks, offer. It sounded like he barely walked in the door and said, okay, what you got? First words coming out of the mouth, he was out of here. So I don't know. I don't know exactly what's happening. Maybe it's just because it was Pete Carroll on the other side. If Pete Carroll's not the coach of the Raiders, maybe he doesn't have the option to go someplace else. Maybe only Pete Carroll could have pulled Geno away from Seattle so easily. Because I'm pretty convinced that when Schneider and Michael Macdonald, correct me if you think differently, when asked about Geno Smith, and they said, no, he's our guy. As much as I know there's all this gamesmanship and no one ever tells the truth, I thought they were telling the truth. I really thought that they believed Geno Smith was going to be here this year. Do you? Or do you think there was...
I didn't believe it. No? I thought you would know better. Come on, dog.
Are you telling me that Geno didn't want his way out more than the Seahawks wanted to get rid of him?
I definitely think it was mutual. And here's why. So, Norm, imagine your running back career went just a little bit further than it did. And imagine you got drafted to the NFL. And imagine you get drafted and you go to the New York Jets. You're the face of the franchise. You're that guy for them. And then, just like what happens with every Jets quarterback, everything goes wrong, blows up in your face, you suddenly suck, now you're a backup for the Chargers. Well, then you go from being a backup for the Chargers for a few years. Now you go back to New York, but you're with the Giants. Then finally, you find one coach who's willing to give you a shot to compete for a starting job and to show that you can still play in this league. You go with him. You work with him. He gets so confident in you. He trades the starting quarterback so that you have your opportunity. You play with him for a couple years. He loses his job. Now the new guy comes in, not totally sold on you, but you've at least earned a year. But what happened in that year? Norb, just a few weeks ago, months ago maybe, I can't even remember when we spoke, but we were talking about how many times Geno cost us games and in turn cost us the season, considering we lost by tiebreakers. So I don't think Seattle was out here like, we want to keep you. How can we keep you? Clearly, that's not what it sounded like. It more sounded like, here's the most you're going to get from us. You want to try the market? Like, that's what it felt like. And then they get rid of him, bring in a third-round pick, and get someone for a little bit cheaper, a little bit more team-friendly of a deal. I saw it. It was kind of written on the wall for me.
If Pete Carroll wasn't the coach, if he didn't, he signed on. When did he sign on with the Raiders? It was not that long ago, right? It came up fairly recently.
Well, it was towards the end of it was one of the last hirings.
Yeah. You think things will play out the same way if Pete Carroll's not the coach there? I mean, do you think there would another team that would have traded a third-round pick for Geno Smith somewhere out there?
Definitely not a third. Definitely not.
We came away pretty good. I mean, all things considered, that was a pretty decent to get a third-round pick out of the deal. It wasn't bad. I think it just goes to show how much Pete Carroll more than anybody else, I feel like, is one of the few coaches excited to see what he can do with them. I mean, he gave the chance. He gave him everything. Geno Smith should pay him like $20 million for his cut. He gave him that money. Geno would be making league minimum if he offered Pete Carroll. Now he's making what? He's going to be making high 30s million a year, at least in the next couple of years, plus what he made already.
Yep, with some bonuses.
Pete Carroll was his agent. And speaking of bonuses, remember he lost those bonuses.
Yep.
He lost those bonuses that everyone was talking about. Oh, my God. He didn't make like an extra $8 million. I mean, it was something pretty significant for what he did on that last game against the Rams, but nobody was talking about the little caveat that said, you get this extra incentive if you're on the roster come March, whatever the cutoff date was. Never happened. So, yeah, we'll take that back. Yeah, let's just put that back here. Use it on our offensive guard next draft. No, which we won't. We use it on that receiver.
We'll use it on our third. We're going to get some redundant position. Our third edge rusher. Yeah, we're gonna spend it there or something.
But you said you wouldn't be mad if it was an edge rusher.
You're right. I'm just saying, but what do we need? Though?
Yeah, wide receiver, and quarterback, depending on who it is. Like I said, they really can't screw this up. You have to try really hard to screw this up, John. Just screw this one up, John Schneider. Too many cards in your hands.
Gosh.
We're going to find out tomorrow.
I hope we don't have to clip that.
You mean you can't screw this up?
Yep.
We're going to have to wait about 25 hours from now to find out the answer to that one. Maybe 26, something like that.
They trade all their picks for next year picks.
You're just trading all the way back. We're going to be loaded next year, though. We can get the number one pick no matter what because we have all these draft picks. Anyway, well, thanks, man. I appreciate you jumping on here. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add, anything else that you wanted to share from your neck of things. But, again, my good buddy, excellent media guy, Noah Boelter, joining me to talk a little bit of Seahawks draft the day before. Yeah, man. What else is there to say?
Hey, Norb, thank you so much. I really hope you enjoy watching the draft with all your friends. I hope that Seahawks pick day one, and that you get an interior offensive line so you can sit there and be like, yes!
I like how you say you.
Well.
I like how you say you get an offensive line. Like it's just me. I have this strange need that I need to get filled in some unique way. You say you, like the entire Seahawks fan base, you is who you're talking to here. Including yourself. Include yourself in this conversation, my friend. You know it too.
I hope we get an offensive lineman in the first round. That'd be great. And then we trade up and get another one and just don't even have to worry about nothing.
Blue chip offensive line. Not just some project, not some fourth round cast off, not some guy who doesn't even see the field next year or maybe rotates in after two guys ahead of him get injured and then he gets thrown to the wolves. Starter.
I would put a lot of money on defensive player first at the very least. Front seven, I'd pound that line. And then specifically defensive line, there's a good chance, like it's going to be front seven for sure. If we pick at 18, it's going to be front seven or Shedeur Sanders.
It just better not be a safety. Or a corner.
Yeah.
Wide receiver. I don't care if the best wide receiver on the board is available, which I don't see that happening anyway. But if best player available is a wide receiver, doggone it, just don't look at that. Don't look at that list. Ignore it. Get the best lineman available. Is it a BPA? Erase the P, change it to L. O-L. B-O-L-A. Bola! We need Bola! Best offensive lineman available. That's what we need. Put that big old bold letters on the draft board. Bola! Wear a shirt tomorrow. Bola! What the hell is Bola, Norb? You talking about some kind of disease carried by mosquitoes from Africa? No, I'm not talking about Ebola. Just Bola. Best offensive lineman available. Just get it done. Rip the Band-Aid off. Overdraft if you have to. Let's just end this conversation right now in 2025, doggone it. And we'll be very happy come September, October, November, December, and into January. You'll be thanking yourselves for it, man. You'll be going, see, Nor was right. Bola is the way to go. I should retitle this stream. We need Bola.
Custom NorbCam gear. Come on, I'm with it. I'm here. I like it. Look, and the accent, I don't know where the accent from, but I... Bola!
It's just not an accent. It's just energy and what we need to do in this moment of Seahawks history. Modify says Noah was right. Tomorrow, incoming LMAO.
for the defensive lineman, that's got to be.
Yeah, I know. I unfortunately, I think you're going to be right, but not that it's a bad thing. All right. That's it, you guys. Thank you, man. Noah, that was very entertaining. What?
We take a running back. Rashad Penny.
God. No.
Oh.
But would we really be surprised? No, we wouldn't. Joey Del Rosario says, whenever I see Norm and Noah do a show together, it always reminds me of the pandemic days. Well, I'm glad that Noah and I can remind you of a time when the world was infected with a deadly virus.
No, come on, man. What you doing, dog? Come on. Look,
that was our roots. That was our heyday, man. We actually we had it going on before that. Come on, we were pre-pandemic. We had lots of time, of course, during the pandemic. We were doing stuff in person. It started in person well before the pandemic.
Well, and let's not forget, it was because I recognized you now. It was because I recognized the celebrity NorbCam.
And never forget, French Field, Kent Ridge football.
Joey, thank you for coming to us in a time of need, in a time of all the questions that were going on during the pandemic. And Joey came to us. So, Joey, thank you for that.
Yes, Joey, appreciate you. Appreciate you being here to join us in this little bit of I don't know what you call this, therapeutic, just diarrhea of the mouth, and just sharing lovely thoughts about our football team and other things. No, that's great. I love it. I love every time we get together. I never know what the hell we're going to talk about. Like you asked me, so what's the plan, Norm? What are you going to talk about, dude? You think this is going to be per plan? And even if I had a plan, we would actually follow the plan. We kind of did for about the first 5 minutes, and then rails.
I wouldn't even say that.
Well, we talked about the draft. I said the plan. What else? We're going to talk about the draft. We did that.
Well, yeah, you got that right. I guess you got that.
Oh, man. All right. Well, I'm going to let you do your thing because I know you're a busy man. But, yeah, we'll connect again sometime after the draft and talk about, whoa. My camera. Well, that is technology telling me this stream is over. My camera just overheated and shut down. So with that, we're gonna sign off. Thanks for watching, you guys. Go Hawks! We'll see you at the draft tomorrow. Join my live stream. Make sure you check out Noah Boelter TV, and yeah, we will see what happens tomorrow. Take care, you guys, and go Hawks.
Yo, I'm Ken Walker, running back for the Seattle Seahawks.
Tyler Lockett from the Seattle Seahawks.
DK Metcalf.
KJ Wright. Dave Burleson. You're watching NordCam.
NordCam.
You're watching NordCam.